Welcome to the PartsCast. Eric Koenig, Vice President of Brand and Communication with PartsTown. And today we're going to be talking about touchless solutions, but really what we're also talking about is innovation, and innovation driven by customer need and driven by, let's face it, the pandemic. We've been living for the last 7 months in an unprecedented time, and that is requiring us to rethink how we do everyday tasks. So joining us today on the PartsCast is David Maroun, Vice President of Sales with Server Products. So first, David, thank you for joining the PartsCast. And before we jump in, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Yeah, great to be here. I've been in the food service industry for a little over 20 years, and during that time worked very closely with a lot of new products targeted toward food safety, hand safety, hand hygiene, and so this current phase of COVID and hypersensitivity, I think, to cross contamination is very natural to me, and not fearful, but I embrace it because I see there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue down that path of delivering solutions to help people be safer in their work environment and still be efficient in their operations. I've have worked on a global level with distribution and end users in North America and other markets outside of the U.S. as well, and the past, I would say, 7 years have focused predominantly on more of the product category opportunities as it relates to the U.S. marketplace. So it's great to be at Server. I joined the company a little over a year ago, and it's a wonderful, strong niche player within a category that has some tremendous opportunity to build on, and glad to be a part of that team.
Great. So again, welcome. And really, Server has been bringing over the last, several months, some really, really interesting products, which we're going to talk about as we get deeper into the conversation. But first, one of the things I wanted to dive into is, the pandemic obviously has asked both customers and operators some different questions that they haven't, been asked before. And Data Essentials in some of their market research of late have really emphasized that touchless solutions and cleanliness and sanitation are one of those things that is now table stakes. And when we talk about touchless, from a food service perspective, there are some places that we've always known it with, the towel dispensing and things like that. When we talk about touchless for other types of products that have been brought to market, where do you see a lot of change taking place in those public spaces that, we're not used to potentially seeing?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the touchless solutions that we've witnessed over the past 10, 20 years, and I'll call it the away from home marketplace, many of them have been delivered utilizing battery energy sources. And there's been some electrical, but a lot of, if you look at, let's take for hand hygiene, for toweling and soap dispensing and sanitizing dispensing, a lot of those touchless solutions, take a public washroom, it could be a toilet, a urinal, a sink, a water faucet. Initially, many of those technologies tapped into battery-operated power source of supply, and some of them have become electrical, which helps to improve for consistency and performance. But a lot of the early product suffered from, early stage, I guess, development that became better over time, where the consistency of the touchless experience was good when the battery was first placed and then when it was removed. But there's still that inconsistency. And so, anytime you can have it electrically powered, it's superior to a battery operated. And And that's kind of where I think the market uh, is struggling, is offering in when possible an electrically powered touchless, but then there's times when you need to have a portable battery operated. And anytime your hand is touching something that someone else has touched, there's an opportunity to take it to a touchless level. And then sometimes it's re-engineering. Sometimes it's not creating a touchless door, but it's creating a labyrinth, so that when you go into the washroom in a facility, you don't need to touch a door anymore. You go through, there's a privacy built into it. And so some of that re-engineering can take part to help create a more touchless experience. Um, in my experience in food service is the customer facing has a different level of sensitivity than the employee facing. With employees in a food service operation, you can have processes that help to prevent and minimize cross contamination. But when it comes to the public, it's hard to change their behavior or to require them to wear disposable gloves or what have you. So there's an extra sensitivity, I think, to making sure that we make it as simple and kind of idiot proof, so that a patron of a facility cannot make a mistake by potentially cross contaminating or getting their hands dirty or what have you. So that's where I think recently there's been a real fast push to either one, remove anything that can be touched, which we're seeing this past year, or two, make it so that it's contactless and touchless.
And I think, part of it's that whole customer experience value proposition that that our customers are, our end user customers are really after as well, is that how do we minimize frustration, with touchless operate, because you talked a little bit early on about, battery operated versus electrical, and how if a solution isn't working, it creates a sense of frustration that's going to force them to want to touch something.
It defeats the purpose. If you have a product that doesn't have the reliability and you need to override it with a manual touch point to override that because the touchless is inconsistently operating, that's a problem. If it's one out of every 5 times you have to touch the product, or if it's anytime you have to touch it, if you're intending to make it a contactless experience, you want it to be 100% of the time contactless. And that's a challenge that we face, is delivering good, consistent, quality solutions that ensure reliability.
Yeah, and so that and that really becomes that reliability piece is, I guess we call it evolutionary innovation, is to how to make sure the product performance, it might not be a game changer from the standpoint of I've never seen this before, the old Steve Jobs model, customers don't know what they want until you give it to them, but curating those products that take that step to okay, this works, and it works consistently. Can you tell us a little bit about Server and their philosophy of innovation, because the products that that we'll talk about are innovative, and it marks I'll say an evolution in Server.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Server was born from innovation. I think its first flagship product was a butter warmer, and there was a need in the market to have for theaters and popcorn butter and so forth, a heated solution that provided dispensing and also maintained quality of the butter as well. At its inception, it was kind of a challenge, and I think as one of the first flagship products, that solution kind of gave way to future subsequent innovations throughout the years, whether it was with dry foods dispensing or the market started to shift to more sustainable pouch type packaging, flexible packaging with a lot of food, liquid food, and Server was at the forefront of that as well, innovating, taking existing dispensing solutions that provided reliability, quality, portioning accuracy, and ultimately, benefits to the operators as a result of that. But then kind of took steps to include that it would work with packaging that was now flexible, that would give you, added savings on food because you had no more waste. You had 98% evacuation. Now what we're seeing is continued evolution, not just in types of saucing that you might be dispensing, but also the requirement almost overnight, where all of a sudden, if it was a touch point, it now needs to be touchless. And that might be more so for front of the house with the public than for back of the house, but the desire is on both sides. The ROI or the cost, that you can incur is less questionable on when it's a front of the house guest experience. And it might be more sensitive for a back of the house operation where you have other measures that can help to reduce, cross contamination. But that almost happened overnight, I think, in our industry this past year, where we saw everything front of the house, tabletop, countertop, customer use. If it was deemed reusable by more than one person, it kind of had to be removed overnight. And so we were forced to take ourselves to that next step, which had already been kind of talked about in the design with some of our new technologies coming out anyways, but it really accelerated us to drive and deliver on that touchless experience. So, but from its inception 70 years ago, Server started by innovating solutions for end users, and today we continue. It's exciting because if you look back at a lot of our legacy products, there's a lot of mechanical workhorse, really high quality stainless steel type product. And if you look at what we're launching and what we're introducing moving forward, there's more electronics, there's more intelligence in the smartness of our electronics and how it interfaces with the customers. And that's very different than where we were 70 years ago, but it's building upon the base competency that this organization has in delivering the ultimate kind of dispensing solution for liquid and non-liquid foods, basically.
Yeah. Well, and it's allowing. I like to look at it this way anyway, and I could be completely off. If we think about restaurants and the creativity that chefs are leveraging on a day-to-day basis, and you combine that with the creativity and the solutions that that Server provides, the two are actually it brings the two together to sort of say, okay, how do we solve the problem to get something new and exciting in front of a customer? It really opens up a number of possibilities to sort of say, how do I take 20 sauces and put them in a footprint that used to be just ketchup and mustard or something like that. I think there's the world of possibilities.
Yeah, space is a valuable resource, and there's less and less of it available to us. So we're challenged with that, and whether it's through remote dispensing or through a more compact ultimate design, sometimes that touches into the packaging that the customer gets, but that's a major consideration as well. Definitely.
And so when we talk about revolutionary innovation, I think the use of data is revolutionary innovation, especially I think in food service. We talk a lot about connectivity and things like that, but the use of data in how our equipment works with our operators to give them the most information as possible. So Server has the smartware platform, that helps leverage data. Can you talk a little bit about what that platform does and the benefits for customers?
Yes, it's because we're bringing in electronics and intelligent boards. We have the ability now to not only program sometimes our dispensing solutions with greater ease, because we don't have the limitations of a mechanical mechanism. It's now electronic, but we're also capturing data. And that data is used for, you name it, alerting for usage, for preventative maintenance, for user interface communication. We're seeing all of a sudden your equipment, in this case, take a server dispenser, is able to communicate back to either the operator or the public interfacing or the user interfacing with the product to give them important information back, which a lot of times is valuable. Like with larger chains, they love that because it gives them better intelligence to make smarter purchasing decisions with supply chain based on usage. It also allows them to measure, outage and consequent, customer experience as a result of that. If we can share that information, and with the technology we're putting into our products, it makes it relatively easy to share that with customers. We have a platform, proprietary platform in our SmartWares product solutions that allows operators to get that information to use really to the ability that they're capable of at a central headquarters or at an individual store level. Even things like you wouldn't think, but if there's an LTO menu change and you want to change the name of a sauce that you're offering the public, you have the ability to deploy that against thousands of store locations utilizing IoT technology. And something as small as that, well, I'll just go and program it, and I'll put a new label on, or I'll program it at the individual point of use. You do that 5,000 times, and it's no longer a simple task.
No.
And technology brings that now to the forefront, and it allows us to do that. So we're really excited about this new SmartWares platform, and we know that its opportunities are very into the future, but also the present. And I think servers at the earlier stages in the marketplace. It exists, but not to the level within our category we haven't seen. So we're excited to launch that.
No, and in a quick touch point for our listeners, LTO, limited time offer, just in case they are unaware of the acronym. But I think the other thing that technology like this does, and brands crave it, is consistency. And so how do we make sure that from dispensing the right amount to and even like I said, back of house, if they're, someone's putting together a hamburger, making sure they're putting the right amount of ketchup and mustard and pickle relish or pickle or whatever, you put on any sort of sandwich, that too is that comfort level, because I think the one thing that, the pandemic has also proven out is that we look for things that are comfortable for us. And, what food, and nothing is more comforting than food for a lot of people. And this helps lay into that need for comfort is consistency, and technology is one of those ways for us to get there.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. I was, I think last year I was at doing some store development on a new product solution, and it was tied to the use of a microwave in this chain. And it so happened that the preset programs on the microwave were off calibration, and they had been overridden locally by some of the supervisors or management of this particular restaurant. And so they might have had 15 or 20 different preset programs, but they weren't necessarily the current set approved by corporate. And what it did was it really underscored to me that was a huge opportunity, because if you're able to send that remotely and make sure that I know that every one of my microwaves or every one of my ovens or toasters or dispensers is synchronized to the new menu set, I know that I'm going to ensure consistent quality and output. And that was a great example, and that was not in a small chain either. And those are challenges that operators face. And training employees when you have a average tenure of a month and a half at a fast food chain is not easy, right? So you want to make it as simple as possible, and leveraging technology to do that is I believe, the way to go.
Yeah, no, that employee turnover and that that constant retraining is always the hobgoblin of consistency and brand performance. And anytime we can create a solution for customers that get to a happy customer at the end of a meal is what we're after. I want to circle back a little bit on innovation and thinking ahead to where we've been and what the server's history, but the pandemic driving a faster need for innovation in, let's face it, an industry that has not been a fast evolver over the years. Your personal philosophy on innovation, because you've talked about how passionate you are about innovation. When you think about innovation, what gets your mind spinning and going in 1,000 different directions?
I think there's a couple of views on how it can help to improve our lives and your competitiveness in the market as well. There's cumulative stepped approach where you're making steps progressively towards something bigger, better, and ultimately different 5 years down the road. And if you call that innovation light or not, it's valuable and important, and that's definitely a part of it. And then there's some transformative where you kind of leapfrog and you introduce something that's a bit of a game changer in a quick period of time. And those are few and far between. But in my experience, when you look for highly innovative solutions that leapfrog where the market is and take you to a next level quickly, the less changing of behavior that's required. If that innovation doesn't require you to change behavior a lot, then it can be adapted more easily. And in food service operations specifically, we're challenged with operating procedures and chains and so forth. And while we might not, we are actually charged with changing behavior and streamlining operational steps to reduce steps and make it simpler for the operator to accomplish their task in less time with less steps, less complexity. If it's not complex to execute and it's intuitive, so innovation that's intuitive, that's where it's really fun. And I think that speaking to like touchless technologies, when they first came out, it wasn't quite as intuitive 20 years ago and as it is today. So having a sensor activated touchless solution is pretty commonplace nowadays, right? So seeing that in a sauce dispenser today isn't as odd as it might have been 20 years ago. And today is intuitive for somebody to activate it in a touchless fashion, whereas yesterday it wasn't. So if you can adapt to that new technology and that new innovation, and it transforms that experience, and like in this case becomes something touchless literally overnight, but it's easy to understand, and you don't have to spend a lot of time educating the user as to how to adapt to that new technology, that's where it can be a real win.
Yeah, no, it gets really exciting. I can't tell you how many times I have stood in front of something, waving my hand or expecting it to be touchless, and lo and behold, it's like, oh, I have to actually touch something and push a button. Yeah, it really is becoming a expected piece of technology. But as soon as you take it out of a place where as soon as you put it in a place you don't expect it, it gets back. That's where you start to say, okay, it really has to be intuitive, like you were saying, for people to understand and put the two pieces together and say, okay, I get this. So like I think about football stadiums now that we're gradually letting people back into stadiums to enjoy the game. Going and getting a hot dog or something like that, and how manual that is. Server has actually come out with Touchless Express, that I expect to hopefully see at many stadiums as I wander back into the world of sports. Can you talk a little bit about that product and its benefits and where you see that line going?
Yeah, we have it's more than one one product. The Touchless Express is leveraging the new touchless technology on a legacy dispenser, which is tried and true in the marketplace, and designed primarily to work with pouched, fitmented sauces, but also works with some direct pour. And it's a countertop unit. But that same touchless technology we're extending to new lines where remotely fed dispensers will also offer a touchless experience for that user interface. And so for stadiums, we're thinking there's opportunity for both the countertop and that remotely fed touchless dispensing experience because of the volumes associated with those large venues. I refer to it as kind of large batch feeding, where you have a short period of time where you get hundreds and thousands of folks in, and they all kind of want to be dressing their sandwiches at the same time. And so you want to have easy access to accommodating 100 people at a condiment center. I think that what we have is a lineup of products. Today, the Touchless Express, which is the first out of the gate, and it's a countertop unit, and also offers you can drop it into the counter. But I think for those large venues, the more counter space, and a lot of times I see that if they can store remotely the sauces and then feed that from a more centralized location, they can save on the amount of labor to refill and so forth. But then if you take the SmartWares technology and you talk about now all of a sudden we can have alerts that are sent so that if you've got outage at this location in this dispenser, now your labor can be
you can disperse it, in the right way, and
on an as-need basis. And so you don't need to guess or to do a visual check to see, do I need to refill this? You get the alert that tells you. And that, I think, in a stadium type environment, that would be a very valuable benefit to those facilities as well.
Well, I mean, almost in really in any environment, we think about streamlining employees, letting technology sort of help improve overall performance and benefit of how and why you go to a restaurant too is a real opportunity for that technology as well. So what's next in the line of server products? What are we looking forward to seeing in the market soon?
We're looking at those opportunities that help us to. We tend to touch on packaging of food, and we touch on technology and food costs, and so our ability to provide a solution that adapts to the change in the market's trend toward more sustainable packaging, flexible packaging, is paramount. That's really important. And so we're at the forefront of that. We work real closely with food companies and with packaging companies and chain operators, looking at what's next, because it's not so much the dispenser that drives the business. It might be on the food side, or it might be even the packaging. And if there's an initiative that's driving to greater sustainability, or better, food cost savings because you have less waste because of a package that's being used, we need to be able to work with that. So we work real closely with that side of the industry as well, and we'll always work in concert with how your food comes. If we're dispensing any type of food, dry or liquid, we're going to make every effort to make sure that we're at the forefront of what's next in packaging. And that could be 2 years down the road. Additionally, I think who knows with technology, to what level does it go? How far can that information and remote communication with your equipment and operator headquarters, where you can take that, or from a user experience, from a marketing standpoint too. There's an opportunity to help utilize that technology, not just for management alerts and preventative maintenance and stuff like that, but also for possible marketing activity. So we're excited. We think you look at food's not going away in food service, right? And we're all about dispensing food, liquid and dry is our primary focus, and how we incorporate technology and how we work seamlessly with today's packaging and tomorrow's packaging in the future, whilst delivering, like you were talking about, consistency and then also savings with your food costs, is what we'll continue to do and build on.
And well, and another component of that too, as you talk about working with packaging, is delivery and carryout is not going away anytime soon. It's only going to continue probably to stay large and keep large. For that. So any products or any thought around what you see next in helping customers dispense product that's going to go out to delivery or for pickup.
So on the immediate is, pivoting. Operators need to pivot for all of the food that is not currently available in to-go packets. There's issues with to-go packets, right? And, from a food cost standpoint and even from a hygiene standpoint, but over half of sauces in total in the market, between house sauces and specialty sauces, might not come in those prepackaged packets that you could do at a takeaway. And so therefore, offering a dispenser that allows you to quickly and easily and in a touchless fashion, if possible, dispense it to a single-use disposable souffle cup. You've seen a lot more of those in the market recently because there's a lot more takeout happening. We're seeing a rise in demand for solving for that, and I think that's going to stay. I think people will eventually come back to dining inside, maybe not to the same levels as before. It might take some time, but it will come. And more importantly, I think packaging that is quality and also talks to sustainability for the takeout side of the business. And how that works with providing condiments is going to continue to be important. So we might see some changes there. The souffle cups of today might not be the ones of tomorrow for kind of point of use dispense instead of buying prepackaged potentially. So
yeah, and I would expect server to be on the forefront of that. David, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate taking the time. And for our listeners out there, go to server-products.com to check out the full line of server products. And, everybody, until the next time on the PartsCast, look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Eric.